You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
All right, welcome to All My Block Podcast and Green Bay Packer Podcast. I'm your host Ahman Green, along with my good friend and teammate Mike Wall. Mike, how you doing?
I'm good, AG. Good to be here, bud.
Yep, we hanging in there, about to get into some Packer talk and funness in terms of now we're in the second week. At the end of
Yep.
this week, we got preseason ball starting up. We had family night that was last Friday. I don't know if you saw any highlights of that. I don't know if I didn't even get to
It's
see
just
it.
practice. Like
Right,
you
for
talk
us,
about that.
yes.
But even for family, it's awesome. Like, I think it's, first of all, Green Bay is so amazing because they pack that
Mhm.
stadium.
Every time, it's crazy.
Right. I've played, you play at other teams, you coach at other teams. Like, dude,
Mhm.
down in Miami, family night does not look like that. I mean,
I could
it's
say
just-
that for Houston. I was in
Yeah,
Houston.
it's just different. This is a
It's
very, very
bleak.
special place.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a very, very special place. I mean, Green Bay's got more people at practice than I would say 10 to 12 teams have at a family night.
Every
I'm
practice,
talking
too.
about a morning practice on a Tuesday. So it's
Right.
a very, very special place. Anytime you get to go into Lambeau, if you're a fan of football, if you're a historian of football at all, you understand, the backstory there and everything that's gone through, the great teams, the great coaches that have been able to play there. So it's certainly, I mean, you and I know it's an honor.
Yep, it's a big deal for those fans, for us as players too, because obviously we're using it for our development to get ready. Do the things we need to do to be ready for that regular season game, and obviously that first preseason game. So I'm gonna get into the sponsory from our sponsors with BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source of all your betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest odds, news, sports developments, including NBA, Summer League, Major League Baseball, and the latest fighting news, and even next season's early futures. That's what we're talking about in terms of Packers. So head to the website on your mobile device to sign up today to receive the 50% welcome bonus on your deposit. Just use promo code BLEAV to get the bonus and get into action. Bet online, Mike, where the game starts. So right now, like we talked about, training camp has started. Week 2 is in the fold right now. This is Monday, and we have Matt LaFleur, talking about tempo, in terms of things, the way he wants things going in practice and on the game field when they're running out of place. And so let's start that conversation. What is tempo for the offensive side of the ball, Mike, when you got the ball and you want to get that ball going and get that defense off balance?
Yeah, so LaFleur, so we talk about tempo, and also, Matt's talking about playing fast as far as your play speed and not playing tentative. And to me, like tackling that one first, AG, what that to me means, when we talk about this in all different sports, but certainly in a violent sport like football, you find a lot of guys. First of all, football's, although it does start and stop, it is very intricate as far as the detail of your route running, as an offensive lineman or running back, what holes you got to fill, like what your reads are as far as blitz pickup. And
Right.
guys can get kind of starry-eyed and not actually just get into the groove and play. So what we try to do as athletes is we try to become masters at reading our external, like knowing our assignments, reading our external cues, and then reacting as fast as we can. The best decision makers in the world are the best athletes in the world. So
Yep.
Matt LaFleur is talking about, I think specifically, hey, we want guys who can go out there, understand their assignments, automate their technique, make decisions, and just play fast, let it go, not be tentative. Being tentative is one of the traits that you see of younger teams. Is one of the traits you see with teams that have guys that are just kind of, you're kind of dipping your toe in the water. You're not fully committed to being the best that you are. You made a statement last week. You said something to the effect of, players right now are just figuring out how to be who they are.
Correct.
And that's one of the things I think that Matt LaFleur is saying to these guys is like, hey, man, just go out there. Even if you're going to make a mistake, How many times you heard this? Make a mistake 100%, because that's going to get you where you want to go.
All the time. I heard that. Especially I heard a lot, obviously, during my rookie year, because I was making a lot of mistakes. But then I eventually succumbed to that and say, you know what? That makes sense. Because if I was thinking too much, as I knew when I was comfortable in Nebraska, comfortable at Omaha Central High School, Little League, I was comfortable. So I didn't think, I just went out there and balled and did my thing. But if I'm thinking too much, I'm slowing down. I'm figuring out, okay, looking at the playbook and then trying to transfer it at the field. No, playbook is not in front of you right now. Go do what you've been doing since you were 6. So just having that mindset to click and understand, and for me, understanding what LaFleur, wants to get that going right now, because it starts in preseason, having live drills. They have limited drills already, as we know, but then the games coming up, we already know those guys, the first string guys, are barely going to see the field, if not at all. We know Aaron's not even going to probably suit up. So for those guys that are in the rotation, offense, defense, go hit it. we'll go to a practice film and fix it later. That's the mindset you got to have as a player and obviously as a coach.
There's a lot of different ways. I mean, we've talked about this before. Ultimately, as a coach, all these hours, everything that you're trying to do as an organization is really to make sure that your players develop the confidence that
Mhm.
they need to play at their best, right?
Yeah.
All of us are just searching for confidence. That's really what athletes need more than anything else.
Yep.
And one way to facilitate confidence for coaches is to tell them, like, listen, I'll eat the mistakes. We can deal with them later. I just need you to play at 100%, because when athletes go out and commit to playing at 100%, they're playing with their hair on. We call it playing with your hair on fire.
Right.
Then you kind of start forgetting all of the other voices in your head. Like, everyone thinks there's like one Jiminy Cricket sitting on your shoulder, like your one conscious voice, right? But we have like dozens of voices in our head, all fighting for real estate all the time. And
Mhm.
really, you need that. Just, what's my mission right now? Let's go do it. Read and react athlete. We need that voice to be in control. And the only way sometimes for a lot of these guys to get rid of everything is just to not worry about anything else. We'll eat the mistakes. We'll deal with it later. Go out and play as hard as you can. Preseason right now, whether you're talking about training camp, whether you're talking about this first game for a lot of these guys,
Mhm.
I was thinking about this quote that Kobe had. It said something to the effect of, the most important thing is that you must put everybody on notice that you're here and that you're for real.
Mm.
Right?
I get
The
it.
obvious Kobe quote.
Yep.
And
Makes sense.
yeah,
Makes sense.
and this is that opportunity for a lot of these guys to go out and say, man, I'm here. I'm here to play like Dobbs is doing right now. I'm here to play, and I'm for real. What's the way that coaches, what's the easiest way to characterize that, or to put that into words for a coach is, man, go out and let it all hang out, play 100%, don't be tentative, play as fast as you can, and we can make corrections in the film room.
Right. And I say another way to say that is players earning the coach's trust. They see that player going out 100%, and let's say there's 10 plays. 7 out of the 10 plays, 3 of them didn't look too good, but the other 7, that means 70% of the plays looked, fantastic. They saw a guy giving 100% effort. They saw a guy creating that picture. Okay, it's a power toss. He got out it was a guard coming out. His feet was there. His body, he was out in front. Wasn't out off balance. Didn't seem awkward. Okay, now we could work with that. We could check that off in that mindset. So once you gain that coach's trust, when they're in meetings, they are then now game planning and say, coaches are asked, hey, lineman coach, what your tackles look like or your guards look like coming out on that power sweep. Hey, they good. It's a couple little errors here in most of the series, but in some of the series, but overall, 70% of the time, he was getting around out of there, getting out of the box, getting in on the DB or whoever he needs to block to make that play. And once that coach has that confidence, then he will speak up for you in meetings to make sure you get your time on that field come preseason. And it's important for all these players, these young players, to get that preseason time.
Hey, let me ask you this: if you're not a high draft pick, right? But obviously,
Mhm.
we have to make some assumptions, right? If you pick,
Right.
and this isn't always true, but let's assume that if you get picked by a team, that's because at least that position coach thinks that you're worthwhile,
Correct.
at least as a project. How long do you think it takes, or what do you have to demonstrate to that coach before they go into install or game planning and say, I know, or I want to build our offense around their strengths. Like we always talk about, there's coaches that come in and say, you have to run my offense, you have to adapt to what I do.
Mhm.
And then there's really good coaches that come in and say, I'm going to look at the strengths and weaknesses of the players that I have, and I'm going to build the offense or defense around them. Generally speaking, how long do you think it takes for a coach to buy in or gain that trust, whatever we want to call it? So they're like, you know what? Ahman's good at these things. I want to highlight these things. Like, how long does it take a guy to figure that out?
I would say a good coach that knows exactly what he is looking for, it takes probably one practice for that player. Anything beyond that, that means they know they got to put work in on that player to develop. But if it's that guy that know exactly what we're doing in terms of football, that coach will know in one practice, maybe one play or a couple series of drills, they'll be like, nope, okay, I got what I want. Now let's just work on this. Take that note down. Later on, when they get to the practice tape, then they're already on it. Because I remember Sylvester Crooms when I got him as a coach and had EB as an assistant to him. Man, I had 2 guys that are, he was offensive lineman, played for Alabama back in the day. Edgar Bennett, we know what he did as a running back in the league. So both of those guys seeing me, they saw things that right away I wasn't thinking about, maybe in the back of my head later on. But then, working on my footwork, running certain routes, pointing my toe out to make sure I have better crisp breaks when I go to an out route or go to an in route or a slant route, because they were thinking about putting me in the slot at that time, thinking about using me beyond just being in the I formation. So that right there was then getting my head to where I got to be ready to do what I need for this team. Whatever that position is, even on my running back, they might put me in the slot. So that means I got to start reading, certain coverages and understanding that. So that coach might be able to figure that out. But the good coach that understands what they're looking for, probably one or two practice. That's about it.
Yeah, I was thinking, because Mike Sherman was offensive line coach at UCLA. Obviously, he was Flanagan's coach at UCLA before he became coordinators, et cetera, and a head coach for the Green Bay Packers. And, one of the things that helped for the offensive line room was, like, we always kind of knew that we were going to be put in a bad position because he understood what the problems areas were for different things that happened, different defenses, different schemes, et cetera. So we usually went into games. Part of that was him. Part of that was Beck would go up there and argue with everybody if we didn't like a play. Right. I mean, to his credit, that's something that he did do.
You have to do that, yeah.
And so we usually went into games having the confidence, like, there's no scheme that they've put in that we can't run. And it's always interesting to me because I think when, you can look at our line back in the day, there's certain things that everybody did well and certain things that we didn't all necessarily do as well. And they did a really good job of identifying, okay, Chad's not going to put a ton of work in on like play side drive blocking, right? But he's incredible pass protection guy. I'm good on the move. Mike Flanagan's good on the move. He can get to the second level. Marco's really, really good at battling in a phone booth. Tausch can do X, Y. So you just start looking at all these things, and they did a masterful job of putting that group together. But it all starts with trusting that these are actually the guys that you want.
Right.
And it takes a little while for them to say, these are actually the guys that I want in the room, making sure that, these are the guys that I want, not in the room, but these are the guys I want online week in and week out. So we're going to start building some of our offensive philosophy, not only around what you do and the skill position players do, but also around what we did. And I think that's one of the reasons we were so successful.
Exactly. And make sure they got the plays, in the game plan to make everybody looks great together, because they understand these plays. I understand certain plays. You understand all the plays. And then once we started meeting together, then that brought everything together. When the running backs was coming into the offensive line room, man, I was like, oh my God, why we didn't do this sooner? It totally.
That still's not happening in a lot of NFL rooms. I just read this thing by the guy down in the new guy, Mike McDaniel's down in Miami. Thinks, he was a running coordinator. He actually thinks interior offensive line out. That's how he builds his offense. And I just love the way, like, he thought about that, because you think, like, okay, there's a number of reasons why, but it's also least athletic people on the field. Yeah. Right? Center and two guards, especially when you have Trent Williams in San Francisco. Yeah. Right. And you start going like, okay, so we're going to build what are they good at? What can they do really well? And he kind of built everything out that way, which I think, as a lineman, you go, okay, that's kind of intuitive, but I've never heard a head coach really say that out loud. It's kind of a cool thing to say.
Wow, that's an interesting little detail right there, because it makes sense to me. So this weekend also we saw that the NFL Hall of Fame, it was the big game, Jacksonville, and who was their opponent? I know it was somebody. Raiders, that's who it was. But we saw our former teammate Leroy Boiler get inducted to the NFL Hall of Fame. So you got any good stories to tell of Roy Lee, as we sometimes called him in the locker room?
Well, I was going to say, you said Leroy, but then I remember, like, as he got more popular, I think it became Leroy.
Right.
I think the emphasis came on the second syllable of the word. Like, am I right on that? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you're right. True. You're right. That's
he was Leroy at Florida State. He was Leroy, like, when he got here in Green Bay. Yeah, and man, different.
And what I think more, I don't know if it's a retirement. I heard during his career too, but guys would call him now for sure is Roy Lee.
Oh, for sure.
When I hear Gilbert or Santana, the guys that was in the trenches with him. Oh man,
I came here, like, he was all decade team, and I remember I always tell this story about Leroy, and it really probably applies to Leroy, Reggie, applies to Brett, applies to Frank, Santana, Gilbert, all those guys who had been 2 Super Bowls. But Leroy is probably the guy who epitomizes it most, because he is even as you walk into a football locker room, it's not like the guy's built like a brick shithouse or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just kind of a normal looking guy.
He is.
And he is not he's not macho. I mean, the guy has great chat to him. He's super confident, but he's not macho. He's not a tough guy. But he was one of those guys that kind of taught me early on, because again, this is a violent sport. You got to manufacture emotion. I felt like I had to always manufacture emotion, playing loud music, whatever it was, having butterflies before games, what all these different people deal with these stressful situations.
Right.
And I remember Leroy, Reggie, these guys teach you that, man, if you're good, like if you're really good, then you can just be good, and that's enough. You know what I mean? Your mindset's like, I know what I'm doing. I know my playbook. I know my opponent. I've prepared. I've studied. Like, I'm good. I can have this heightened sense of awareness. I can be anticipatory, but I don't need to be. I can be anxious, but I never need to be nervous because I'm good. And I can go out there and enjoy having fun, beating the hell out of somebody else with guys that I love working with.
Yep.
And he was that kind of guy. And there was never this this BS bravado from him. He was just a good player.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I love that about him.
Yep, I definitely agree with all that sentiment right there about Leroy. Great teammate. I remember my first year with him, 2000, coming in, and it was actually going in. I think it was mini camp. It was either mini camp right before, or it was the year, because I think his last year was 01. So we're in practice, mini camp practice, and I did it was an out and up route, and I didn't sell the flat part of the out and up too much, and then I thought I was open. Brett saw me, he chucked it out there, and then Leroy picked it off. And then what he did right away, though, I'm running back to the huddle. He's like, G, come here. He's like, Ahman, come here. He said, let me tell you something about that route, though. He said, you did that little, a little out and up. You got all that speed, and I know you didn't sell it enough. So sell that flat more, and then turn your head, too. And I was like, okay, turn the head. He said, because as a DB, I could see that. If you don't even take a look at him, I know where you're going. You're going up the field, or you're not even getting the ball. I could take you off my list. So right there, sell your whole body. Like you're going to catch the ball. Like he's coming to you. Sell it before you turn it up. Because once you sell it with the head, a good DB will check all that out and drive on you. I didn't. I hesitated. And once I saw your head go back upfield, then I'm like, I'm sticking back. That's why I got the pick. So that right there was like, thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Then any other little thing I did in practice from that moment on for the rest of my career, I made sure I did different things like that to sell things. If I'm reading zone coverage, or if I'm running from route running to running the ball, that right there, just like, cool. I could use that tidbit to help me, and that's the way I always looked at him from that standpoint, like you said. And then his the way he carried himself in the locker room, the leadership side of it was all something that I say all of us as players, we want that part of us, to make sure we show that to our teammates, to have that support. But great guy, funny dude too. On top of that, he has a really good sense of humor. So let's move on to the next topic. So this week we got the 49ers coming to us, correct? I can't remember if it's home or away here. It doesn't matter. So we got either way, going out to San Francisco or coming here to the Midwest. Weather's the same, I think, in both places now. I'd say this is the only time of year that's going to happen. So you got the 49ers facing off against these Packers. We already know what's going to happen. First quarter, it's only going to be a series with the first people are considered the starting line.
Well, what line? What we got injuries. I mean,
injuries, and Aaron ain't gonna be out there. Yeah,
London's still out. Bakhtiari's still out.
Yep.
Jenkins is still out. I mean, it's as little as guys play, and you and I've talked about subscribing to the Sean McVay school of thought here.
Yep.
I would say it's very difficult as a coach now to figure out who your second and third string guys are. I mean, it's the only time you're going to get it, but you don't know who they're going to play against. Are they playing against like for like? Are they going to play against starters? I think the Bills, it must have been Giants or Bills decided that they're going to play their starters for the quarter. I know the team down in Houston's going to play their starters for a quarter next week, I think. And you just start going like, okay, well, Green Bay's not going to play any of their guys. The Rams, there's a couple of teams that are not going to play any of their guys. You just can't take anything away from it. It doesn't matter anyways. And you want to see, this is actually a good time, I think, to look at individual performances, like our guys improving their thought processes, their decision-making, their technique. But as far as like gelling and all, you're never going to get a clean sheet. So I know there's going to be a lot of fanfare, and people are, you get on Twitter, they're going to be talking about it all the time. But it's just like that Saturday night practice. It really doesn't matter.
No, it's for one, that was practice. This is pretty much an extended version of practice. Is obviously it's just more of a physicality brought to the game. There will be full tackling and all the everything going on with that. But I definitely agree with the younger players. And I said players that are not experienced, getting their time for coaches, trying to, like we were talking about earlier, building that trust among the coaches on how they run out plays. But other than that, it's just going to be young guys out there making a lot of mistakes, which is good because that's how you get better. I think make everybody fears. I know you're just like me. If I make mistakes, so what? I'm gonna fix it and go and move on. But a lot of people out there are fearful of making mistakes, and that is got to be way down or off your menu of what you're going to do to get better, because making mistakes is part of the process to get better and be that player you want to be, no matter what you're doing, football field, no matter the sport or job. But make sure you do that basically.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is a very interesting time for a lot of young professionals, the guys that are trying to break into the league. I mean, they talk about the career length of an NFL player being like 3.5 years, and obviously the statistics take into account the fact that a lot of guys don't make it past year one.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this all the time. Like, why do guys not make it past year one or year two? Is it physical ability? Of course, it's part of it. But you listen to any pro who's made it 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you ask them, why do they make it and other people don't? Every single time they say the same thing, man. It's because they were willing to put the time in. They were willing to be honest with themselves about their shortcomings and areas of opportunity and put in work to fix them. Like, they're just willing to put in time that other people weren't. And that, as great a job as it is to be in the National Football League, it's a competitive job. And, it's like, you tell your kids the same thing. Hey, listen, if you don't want to put in the time, that's fine. Just understand there's somebody down the street or 2,000 miles away that's willing to do it. And
100%.
One day you'll meet them and they'll beat you. That's a fact of life, man. That's how it works.
That is reality right there. So in terms of this game, we got Jordan. Obviously Jordan Love's going to be the starter, so he's going to be in his third year starting the preseason game, getting a lot of time there. So again, for him, and like you just mentioned, got to use this time, maximize the most of it, and go out there and try to get better. Don't just obviously settle for thinking, oh, I'm gonna throw this ball as preseason game, not gonna mean nothing. No, throwing that ball. Not saying that Jordan is thinking that, but just saying that's what he got to have that mindset going into each game.
If you're Jordan Love, obviously you try to get better every day, but like I kind of try to put myself in his shoes in a situation like this. You're playing against, you're backing up the league, 2-time reigning MVP.
Right.
Just signed a new contract, probably going to be there for 2-3 more years. Jordan Love's, now you start looking, it's like, okay, this is year 3. Let me do the math. Oh, that's year 5 or 6. Unless Aaron gets hurt. I mean, this guy was a high draft pick, relatively speaking, and you start going like, you almost feel bad for him. Like, are you playing to get traded? Like, are you
right? Yeah, that's that question.
Are you playing to go get that Matt Flynn contract? Are you playing to go get that Jimmy G contract? Or like, what is your purpose here on this team, in this situation? Because you got drafted because you have ability. You clearly are being developed by some, what's turned out to be at least a good room, good coaching staff, whatever, but it's a good room.
Yep.
And you're around the best player in the league day in and day out. But you go like, man, I kind of hope he's playing to get traded just so the guy, I mean, we need a backup, but you go, I feel bad for him. He might not play till year 6.
I mean, I'm with you. I feel bad for him too. And then that's, when you say that, I didn't even think about that. You got to think that way because it is a business. Other teams are always scouting. There's the NFL scout, that scout for every all 32 teams have that NFL scout where they're looking at players that have potential not only to play, but to come off that team that they're currently on. And Jordan Love is in that position. He could be a guy that a team loses their starter, and this is a guy they've been high on since the draft. The year he got drafted 3 years ago. You say, you know what, we're gonna pick him off the Packers. He's not playing right now. We could use him now. We need him because so and so is out. As our starter. So that is a possibility. And like you said, totally something I didn't think about being a player. Like, you know what, I gotta play.
We were never in that position. Yeah, we were never in that position. But this guy's going into year 3 going like, the light of day is not anywhere near.
Right. And it just with the quarterback position, it happens a lot. because there's a misdiagnosis of the current guy, how long he are going to be there. And the same thing happened with Brett when he was playing. They drafted Aaron, and that we already know how that scenario went down with McCarthy and Aaron and Brett, retiring. We already know that. But still, in that same situation here now with Jordan Love, that's where he has to have his mindset. It has to be serious. It has to be business, so he doesn't fake himself out of the potential of what he already has, or what reason why he got drafted first round 3 years ago. So you mentioned Dobbs already. In practice, continue to impress. So what else is the young receiver from Nevada showed you playing out here or practicing out here on the practice field, Mike?
Well, he's present every day. You can just tell his mindset. He's got a routine. He's got a pre-practice routine already. I mean, he's mature for his age. And I think when I say mature, I don't, I'm talking about professionally. It sounds like he's doing the things that veterans do to put themselves in a position to be successful every day. Now, I know he went out there against Alexander today. I read it all over the media. He went out and Alexander shut him down like he should. He's a top flight corner. But, day in, day out, this guy continues to impress. And it shows you because, I think Dobbs is a 5th round pick, right? Yep. Lazard, I think, was undrafted.
He was.
Donald, go back. Donald Driver, 7th round pick.
Yep.
Go back to like the kid in Miami or in Buffalo, Stephon Diggs, 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Marcus Coleman, Saints, 7th round pick. You start thinking about these guys who slip for all these different reasons.
Small school, small size, whatever.
Yeah. Maybe they're too slow. Maybe they don't have the measurables. They don't have the school. They don't have the scheme. But it's just scouts miss on these guys. All of them, not just, not 32 teams miss on these guys.
100%.
Right? And what is the separation between a guy like Dobbs and, with some guys that we've drafted here earlier in earlier rounds that haven't done as well?
Is this?
He's got it upstairs.
That's it.
The kid's got it upstairs, man. That's it. That's literally all it is. It's that hard. It's a simple but difficult thing to manage, isn't it?
Yep, it is. It's something that you are in control. You think you're not in control because you're thinking too much. Go back to that time. Like I told kids that I coach, that whenever you had a good moment or a good year or a good game, what were you thinking about? You probably wasn't thinking at all. You were just reacting the whole entire game. Boom. The ball came to you, you took it and you went. That's how practice is every day. But now develop that routine. When you get to the practice field, what do? Because you get to your locker, you tie your shoe, you put it on, go get your ankle tape before that, boom, boom, boom. But then you get to the practice field, you start warming up. You do whatever your quick foot drills, you work on your hand, jugs after practice, things that I know I've watched you do it, during your career, Mike. After practice, you're in there flipping tires, or you had stuff. I don't know if you bought it or you had Rube or them or bloke to buy it. And you had big old pipe you would throw for about 20, 30 yards at a time and up and down, make reps. So same thing, I would go jugs machine for about 20 minutes after, and then hit the weight room, but then stretching and all this other things. So that mental mindset that you say that for Romeo, he's already there at that level. So year one, we're basically just starting. We're at year 0 for him, and he's already doing those veteran things. And I think that's a good step for him in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. I just remember when I went back into football on the other side of the ball, Frank Gore came to Miami in one of his last. I mean, every year we thought it was going to be his last year,
right?
But I remember in like one snapshot demonstrated why Frank Gore was so great and why the Miami Dolphins team wasn't very good. And Frank Gore would show up and he would invite and he would, hey, come on out. He's not going to beg a rookie or a first, second year running back to come join him. But he had 20 minutes before practice. He would get out there. He would stretch. He would work footwork. He had a pre-practice routine that, we were trying to instill in a couple different groups anyway. So there'd be a couple guys out there here and there, but none of the running backs would show up. And I just remember I'd always be out there early with some linemen working or linebackers working on tackling or something or shedding blocks. And Frank would be out there by himself. And I just always remember going like, how could you not learn from this guy? Like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
If you're in that room and you're not learning from that guy, like you're out of your mind. But like you said, like we just talked about, that's why some people are successful and some aren't.
Yeah, you're not paying attention. You lost in whatever thoughts got you running before you walk into the locker room. You're not focused. So, and then before we get out of just getting into the start of the show, so who is your pick to make the biggest leap forward this season? And we kind of talked about a guy already in terms of Romeo Dobbs. So who might be that guy?
Well, I was thinking of the guys that have already been on the team. So I got a couple guys. You can tell me if you agree or disagree. So on defense, I'm just thinking Stokes, just because the talent level's so high. It was first year last year. Usually you see that jump from year 1 to year 2. He's going to be more comfortable in the defense. He's just going to make more plays. Offensively, I was going to say Josh Myers, but then I really started thinking about it and remembered last year at the beginning of the year, because A.J. Dillon finished the year and he was amazing. But there was kind of a little bit of a growth period as far as getting his running behind his pads in the beginning of the year that you were really critical of him on. So I think A.J. Dillon is going to have the kind of year. I mean, you just see him everywhere. He's part of the community now. You can see how hard he's working. And he just looks like he's a guy that can carry the ball 350 plus times in a season if you need him to. He's got that kind of build. And so I could see him taking even a larger leap actually from last year to this year, just based on number of carries, but really starting up this year where he left off last year. Yep. And then my special teams guy, I don't want to say Mason Crosby, but he didn't have a great year last year, man. He could really use it to have a better year. But maybe Amari Rogers dropped 16, 18 pounds. He's not really showing up on offense. You don't hear his name too often on offense, but maybe he gets some surer hands on punts, and hopefully he could pull something together, because he came from a big school. They had a lot of success, and he's a guy that you look at and go, he can help this team if he can kind of get everything put together the right way. So, you got anybody else you can think of?
I'm looking at I say, since you got AJ, I'm gonna start with the starter, Aaron Jones. He's a guy that continue to develop in this offense, and I like the way. Just think about the run plays that LaFleur has made for him. And he's thought about it. You could tell, because it's the outside zone plays where he's in motion, coming across the formation, using his speed. Obviously, you got the size with AJ that beats up the guys in the middle, but for Aaron Jones, obviously they know he can't probably do all the work that AJ does. Get him on the edge, get him outside, use that speed, and then also with the route running that they have him do from the screens. And he has caught deep balls from Aaron too. So just to see him continue to progress, I would say for me, I'm motivated, get him to getting close to my record and what I did rushing the ball, but then also being that all around back, that he has. He has a lot of help with AJ too. And I say I'm gonna go defensively. I kind of agree with you, with Eric Stokes being at the DB position. That's a position where it's all about confidence. You can't have that overconfidence where you're cocky and you're being boisterous and all that. You got to have that calm confidence, because as a defensive back, one play you're the guy because you just got the pick, and then the next play they could go over the top of you and beat you, and you defended the player the best way you could, but somehow they still catch the ball. So that's how the momentum can swing at that position. So for a guy to understand it and be competitive, you see him every route. He's being there. So to have Zaire on the one side and then him on the other,
he's getting good opportunities, isn't he?
Exactly.
Yep.
They
and pressure equals picks, right? And we got not only do we have the guys that we saw last year with Kenny Clark, Dean Lowry, Preston, and then obviously Rashawn Gary. I think he's going to have an even better year. We could have talked about him, but you got Reed coming in showing that he can play. Obviously, the first round draft pick Devontae Wyatt's going to come in and get some extra pressure. So pressure equals picks. Alexander's back, which means I don't think that people are not going to throw to him, but certainly I would throw to Stokes over if I'm the quarterback. I'm going to throw to Stokes over Alexander until he proves me different. So he's going to have these opportunities with guys hopefully in the quarterback's lap, and we'll see what happens.
Yep, definitely see what happens. So let's head over to trench warfare.
Yeah,
Mike, this is your neck of the woods here. So what you got going here?
Well, we talked about how good the defense has looked so far, and then you see all the injuries that are happening on the offensive side of the ball, or that we're not playing through right now, as far as we're not getting these guys back immediately. You talk about both tackles. You talk about our receiving tight end. I look at it and go, these are the hard things about having a shortened preseason. When are we going to find that continuity? But I'll tell you what I just kind of thought about as we were putting the show together was you hear about how Rashawn Gary's wreck in practice.
Yep.
You hear about the offensive lines not playing
there
as well as they have before. And nobody wants to talk about this, man, but I'm one person who came out and said, like, getting rid of Billy Turner is a problem. And we got rid of Billy Turner.
You did say that.
Guess where Rashawn Gary plays? And guess where all good left defensive end is kind of becoming the premier position, because TJ Watt is breaking all the sack break. I mean, things are happening on that side because that is traditionally the player that is the worst pass blocker. Billy did a really good job for this team for years. I wonder if we're going to miss him, given the fact that we don't know when Bakhtiari is coming back. Jenkins is not here, right? We don't really have what I would call a bell cow tackle at either position right now. Like we have Yosh playing, Royce is over there. I mean, we've got guys kind of moving in and out, but what if you had Billy right now? How much better would you feel about the line this year?
A lot better. I mean, because his ability and his knowledge and his experience. For the players that are there, yes, they're great athletes, as we know, but some of them just don't have that little detail like Billy did to do his job, make sure guys didn't get in the backfield. So yeah, that offensive line, like you said, 2 guys are out right now, L. Jenkins and Buckatari. So right now is just finding out who's going to be what numbers, who's going to be the front 5 from this point forward. So we got to find out starting on was it Saturday or Friday when they face against the 49ers here.
But it's so tough, AG, because you're missing your top 2 players, and you really to me you have 2 positions nailed down: Myers and JOJ.
Yep.
Right. Everything else is kind of up for grabs. Whether it's Hanson, whether it's Roy, you got some different guys playing right guard. I mean, the kid Sean Ryan from UCLA, he's getting some reps, right? He's in the mix. At least he's playing second team.
Yeah.
But you don't really have a definitive player there, and you just don't know the timeline of these other guys. I'm sure the Packers feel a lot better than we do. But if I, again, from going for a long time being a strength on this team, right now, I'm not saying it's a weakness. I'm just saying we don't know enough information, and it makes you kind of anxious about the situation because we don't have that guy where you can just go, man, you put Billy Turner in, all of a sudden you got, all of a sudden you went from having 2 spots to definitively having 4, because now you just go, hey, man, the worst we know is Royce Newman doesn't get any better this year. He can play right guard again with Billy, and we're good to go. Right. You just got to figure out Yosh can probably man this thing over the other side for a while and blah, 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 blah. But now it goes, you're back down to 2 players where you don't really – that's the only 2 positions you feel good about.
Yeah, you gotta find that. You make sure nobody has that question mark, because usually, as you started the question here, is offense usually starts off fast, and that was the case for us. Offense would get in the rhythm fast.
Well, that's just because we were better, though, right? Like usually they say, I'm being honest. Like usually they say because defense is easier to learn. There's more timing to go with offense. Like 10 players can play well on offense, and 1 can play bad, and you have a bad play. 10 players can play bad on defense, 1 player play good, and you have a good play.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I know what you mean.
I know that. And I see the way your mind works is this is the difference between offensive lineman and running back.
Okay.
You think, well, I could be that one player that makes the play work, right? And I think, well, I could be the one player that makes the play not work.
I think that sometimes. I make sure. Look, I know I need to hit the spot, because if I don't hit this spot, if I don't read this line, if I don't check the blitz, audible right, this play is blown up.
You a compliment. I'm talking about talent.
Yeah.
Talent versus horsepower. Talent versus horsepower.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Add horsepower in investment banking or like private equity. You're the value add. I'm the horsepower. I'm punching numbers. You're shaking hands. That's what it is, baby.
I got you, Mike. All right. So let's bring it over to one of the guys that's probably shaking hands, Tom Tunyon. Talks about his comeback from the knee surgery, or from the knee injury from last year. So where you at on that?
He was on Bustin' with the Boys. Bustin' with the Boys is a great show.
It's a podcast, huh?
Yeah, it's a great podcast. It started with the tennis. So other teams, we did this in Carolina too. They'll bring a bus or an RV, and all the linemen will hang out there during the during the downtime.
I've been seeing that. Yep.
And so Tyler Lewan and a couple other guys, they got a bus together. It's turned into a great podcast. It's a lot of fun. They're touring this year because Tyler's not, but obviously, a couple of the other guys that aren't playing, Will Compton and whatnot.
Right.
But he was on there and he's talking about, I want everybody to remember how good I was and how good I am and all these kind of things. And last year kind of started slow because I was more of a blocker because of the injuries and stuff. And I immediately I was just like, no, don't do that, man, because you got it. I know you're a receiving tight end, but
correct.
Think of yourself like. I hope Robert Tunyon has a picture of George Kittle, like a poster over his bed.
He should, I don't know about over his bed, but
you know what I'm saying? Like a guy who can do it all. Like every day he should walk, or maybe in his locker. Like I want to be like George, because George can do everything. Like tear down the Travis Kelce one and put up a George Kittle one. Travis Kelce's a great receiving tight end, right? He's a great slot wide receiver. George Kittle's the man, dude. Like Mark Andrews. The guy over for Baltimore, he's the man. Those guys are awesome.
Yes.
The dude from Cleveland, right?
Yep.
He's the man, right? Those guys can do everything. Be that guy. Be just super excited about being that guy. And you're gonna you'll get everything you want. You'll get the numbers, you'll get the respect,
will.
you'll get the money, everything you want. So he's in a perfect position. Didn't have to leave. He said he made a point. Like, if I have a big contract here last year, if I don't get injured, maybe I'm not on a team with the 2-time reigning MVP. There's no number one receiver here. Like, things are looking actually pretty good for a guy like me, right?
Yeah.
So he could have a huge year, but man, I just hope he puts that George Kittle picture up in his locker, not over his bed. That was a little creepy.
So
yeah, but
that's why I said that.
Puts a picture up over his locker. I thought I meant to the side, but of course your mind is so filthy it goes right on the ceiling. It's unbelievable.
I see so many. Was the American Pie movies back in the day? They were crazy. Yes, so my mind runs when you say certain things, but to that point though, yes, you want to have that mindset. I see, because he knows what the word out is on the street on him. Like, I'm an outside linebacker. When I look at 85 in green and gold, I know what he's about, and I'm like, okay, he comes. Oh, I'm lining up. I'm not even breathing hard. I'm like, okay, I see. All right, let me just get in my stance. Here we go. And you don't want that. So yeah, you gotta, and then he has to be well aware of that. I mean, we're former players, we see that, and it's okay. But if he wants to get the whole, we go back to Jerry Maguire, the whole Quan, have everything.
Nice.
He has to be that run blocking tight end. Has to bring that into the fold, because then he's already good at running routes, catching the ball. But then he brings that. Then he, like you said, the respect part. When that what I just showed you, a linebacker lining up against him, then he's gonna be like, okay, I got a problem. That linebacker, it might run through his head, okay, he's a blocking tight end now. He will, okay, let me see what he does. He's gonna, and you want that. You want that linebacker to start thinking when he gets to the line of scrimmage. When you don't have a linebacker, when they kind of like, okay, just kind of get in the stands real comfortably and nonchalantly, they know, okay, I got to win here.
I don't know that dude at all, but I'd be super interested in his answer to what you just said. Would he say, is he the kind of guy that would be like, you know what, AG, you're absolutely right? Or he'd be the kind of guy that says, to respect, don't pay checks, catches pay checks. I just wonder what,
right.
You know what I mean? Is he Rob Gronkowski, or is he one of these other guys, Mike Gesicki, who just wants to play slot receiver? It's
right. And it's like, we're okay. Just say which one you are. Like, we okay. We'll put you there.
I'm not okay with it. I'm really not. You know what I mean? Because like because what happens is you can work that into your offense, but you also are taking away from some of the abilities of a running back. Some of the ability you have to make, like the run game has to fundamentally change when you're in, because you can't perform some tasks. And like, to me, that's a problem. Like, I don't care if you're a dog, but like DeGuara will throw his body around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that guy's not great yet, but he'll throw his body around. He's not afraid either.
And I'll reword it. It's like among players, we already know where you are. So it'll be no surprise that you try, like, oh, you're trying to block now. Like, for us as players. So I'll just reword that. For us, we're there, and it's like, no respect from, I'm not taking no disrespect, but you'd be better if you did this too. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
That's what we do as players. We'd be like, if you did that, that'd be dope. It's like, I think I said this before on the show. My first year, and me and Dorsey lined up in the backfield together, and they called it horse personnel. And Nick Frederickson, linebacker for the Cardinals. We were in Arizona. Remember 2000 season. We down there in the desert, first month of the season, and I remember his eyes did like this, because he saw me and he looked at Dorsey. He's like, what in the? He just, hold up. They got both running backs. Both could catch the ball. He already knows all the details.
Right.
Like, who I'm going to go for? Like, how I'm supposed to stop Dorsey? He's already been respected. And this new kid that they got on the block, number 30, he looked like he's problem. Like, oh, when I saw that, I just kind of was laughing in my head. I'm like, oh man, he's in trouble. I'm like, he don't know where to go, and that's a problem, And so that's what hopefully Tunyon gets that, and having them free for conversations. That's where some guys get in trouble, as we saw with Baker Mayfield last year. And I was like, stop talking, Baker. You're killing yourself, man. Killing yourself there. So let's head on to get off my line, and we have some tomfoolery here. And my man, Mr. Billion Zillionaire, Elon, is back on the scene again. So we're gonna start though with in my room. He's not in my room, but I'm just saying he's a running back. Kareem Hunt, excuse me. He said, I saw this. I'm like, new deal? He's with the Browns. They just had the whole thing with, number 4. They're number 4 quarterback. Just all trying to, it's still up in the air. Well, obviously, they're still trying to figure that. But he asked for a new deal, Mike.
So he's got, I think he's got a 2-year, $12 million deal
right now.
And let's not forget that Kareem Hunt had to leave the Chiefs in large part because of a very disturbing domestic violence issue, right?
Yep.
And it feels like, so Watson suspended 6 games. The NFL is going to appeal it. What's going to happen? I don't know. Now this guy wants a new deal all of a sudden before the season. You need to read the room a little bit better to me. This is me personally. Everybody's entitled to their money, entitled to what they want. Maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't. I think Nick Chubb's their guy, and Kareem Hunt's a great player.
That's where my mindset is as Nick Chubb all day.
Right. So, but he is. Listen, if you're gonna have a 1-2 punch, Kareem Hunt's a great player. He
can
start for another team.
Agreed.
But, dude, it's just like this is one of those situations where if it's me, it's not me, but if it was, I'd just kind of keep my head down, out of the media, especially when there's something going on with the quarterback involving sexual misconduct or whatever it is in the media.
Correct.
With members of the other sex, knowing that I had a very, very graphic domestic violence dispute.
Exactly. And I saw this myself too. I was just shaking my head. I'm like, couldn't you just wait 3 weeks or wait till the regular season, mid-season or something?
Keep it under wraps. Why sit out of practice? Why are you sitting out of practice? Come on.
Right. It's like, and he's not the clear starter, and you have a dog. They already got a dog in the house. And that's Nick Chubb. We mentioned his name already, and I love him to death.
Yeah.
He is a straight up runner, will run past you or through you, can catch the ball, and then you're the backup, and you asking for this now? And preseason hasn't even started yet.
But AG,
I'm just like this, scratching my head.
You and I were never like this, right? But we know we have I remember every year Driver would be like, I'm getting a new deal. I'm pissed off about my deal. I remember every year, but he would never hold out. It was just one of those things. He just does what he did.
It's posturing.
Yeah. But
that's it.
But first of all, we were talking about the biggest smile in the room, man. I love that guy. He's infectious. But this you just go are you out couldn't have done this before, or just keep it out of the media. Do anything you can to not be here, because here's what happens in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. I've seen it before, right? Print paper, front page, Deshaun Watson, right? Bad, right? Now it says Kareem Hunt right next to it. Dude, bad idea.
Exactly.
Didn't need it. Did not need it.
Guilty by association. You're not even associated with the whole thing, and you're being thrown in it now. So yeah, his publicist or whoever is working with him, agent, they should have known better. That was an agent thing too.
Yeah, because the next thing is what should be on the next part.
Exactly.
The massage therapist convention is right down the street from the Browns Stadium last weekend, and you're going, man, that couldn't have been more perfect. That could have been more perfect.
This was planned out last year. Before
I know this is years in advance. This wasn't.
But I get your point.
You gotta be kidding me, man.
Yeah, if I'm a Brown and I saw that on a sign driving to practice, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, man,
is this real? I can't be living this right now where I actually driving to practice and it's a massage therapist convention going on right down the street. I was like, hold up. I was like, the Matrix or Big Brother is messing with us. What is going down here? Phenomenal. Let's move on to the next one. We got my man, the rich dude, doing crazy stuff. Interesting.
This is kind of a serious one. Have you heard of this yet?
No, I haven't heard nothing. Okay, so fill me in, please.
Okay, so everybody knows that by now that Brittany Griner is the WNBA basketball player.
Yes.
I think she played for Baylor. And she was caught, I think, with CBD oil and a vape pen or something like that in Russia. Mm-hmm. And she's been sentenced to 9 years. Everyone's got their theories about this. And I think the only thing I'll say is it's always hard for me because it doesn't really matter what is legal or illegal in the United States. And it doesn't really matter what we think is fair or not fair.
Right.
You got to know, I'm going to Vladimir Putin's country. He's not a great guy. He doesn't really like America. I'm not going to bring anything in that's illegal in Russia. This is just a tough situation, right?
Correct.
Elon, whether it's, this is tough. They make movies about this stuff because it happens. This is what happens, right?
Right.
Elon Musk comes out and says, you guys are making this big deal about Brittany Griner and she's double NBA star, she's been on ESPN2 and blah, 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 blah. Drug offenders are the number one reason for incarceration in the United States. 400,000 people are incarcerated because of non-violent drug crimes. 66,500 federally. 45% of federal criminals that are in prison are for non-violent drug crimes. That's 4.3 times the incarceration amount of 50 years ago. That's 69% higher. Like our prison rate is 69% higher than Russia, and the reason is. Think about that. Okay. And the reason is 69% higher than Russia, 34% higher than China.
Right.
And the reason is we incarcerate people in the United States for nonviolent, what a lot of us would call minor criminal charges on drugs, whether they're incarcerated in jail, in a state jail, or they're in federal prison, right? We're talking hundreds of thousands of people. And he just makes this point. Well, okay, what about people down the street? Why don't we take care of them too? And it just shines another light on how we as a society value us versus the bad guys.
Right.
One, how we value people on TV that aren't, or versus people who aren't on TV, or people who have a skill that we value that, versus people that don't.
Right.
It was, he says some things sometimes and he's trying to get a rise out of people, but it does make you think like, this is a pretty big problem in the United States of America, whether or not it's for 9 years. But listen, you talk to a guy who's in for a non-violent minor drug offense. He's sitting in prison right now. Whether he's in Russia or he's the U.S., they both feel incarcerated. Like they're both in jail as far as they're concerned. You know what I mean? They're both trying to avoid like shower time. You know what I mean? One way or another, it's a bad deal.
Yes, it is. So so he actually got people thinking on that one. Got me thinking on that one. He brought up some good points. Very, very, very good points here. And so the last one on here on this list, Mike, what you got here?
I love this. This is phenomenal. So I forgot where the guy's from. Soccer player, international soccer player. He gets signed by a new team, and the new team is desperate to get the deal done, sign the paper. I want to get you on the practice field. I want to get you for the next game. Okay. Only problem is he's getting married. It's his wedding day. So what does he do? This guy calls his brother. This guy calls his brother and says, "Hey, can you stand in as the groom at my wedding? Because I've already paid for everything." And he goes to his new team, signs the transfer deal. His brother stands in and gets married to his wife.
Wow.
That is phenomenal. That's an understanding. Amazing. Let me tell you something. That is an understanding bride.
100%.
I'm not sure my bride would be like, yeah, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I mean, mine either.
Instead of maybe you could wait a day or wait 12 hours.
Right. Was it that? Yeah, could he move it? It's a day? 2 hours? 3 hours?
I don't know.
Man,
it's probably in another country. You start thinking like logistically international.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But dude, it was, and the best part is like they had already taken wedding photos. So it was literally just like a formality. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, the whole thing was kind of weird, but I saw that and I was like, man, what a great story. Like, how was your wedding day? Well, I don't know. I wasn't there. I had my brother stand in.
that line right. That's what he's got to say. Yeah. That's interesting. That is amazing. Man, you be going down that rabbit hole on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you go where you find these articles. This is amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's a nonsense one, man. But
that one definitely is like, wow. Like, oh yeah, my brother stood in for me. So how is that?
Well, here's the last one. I don't know if you heard about this, but I think it's University of Oklahoma. Did you see that coach?
No.
Okay. I'll mess this up. But there's University of Oklahoma, a coach that's been there for years. Oh gosh, darn! He's the brother of somebody else. I'm gonna type it in real quick. Let me look at it real quick.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Coach resigns. Cale Gundy, Oklahoma.
Yes, that's who I was thinking. Cale
okay,
Gundy.
So Mike Gundy's little brother, Cale, who was like a quarterback there, and came back. He's been there for how many years? He read something. It sounds like he read the one word that nobody who looks like me can say. It sounds like he read it off a player's iPad.
Oh God!
And so because of that, he's resigned. He's no longer a football coach. And it's like, That's a tough way to end, man.
Yeah.
That is a tough way. And he said, like, he took full responsibility for it, and he said, listen, I didn't even know, I'm just reading off this iPad. It's like, I don't know, was he reading Huckleberry Finn? Like, I don't know what I was like, I don't know what's going on. But you know what I mean?
But
well, Huckleberry Finn's like the
yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they're trying to get rid of all. Yeah. So anyways,
I know the
but he's
storyline.
reading, and all of a sudden, I guess he was like, blah, 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 blah.
And he just kept going. He said it kept going.
Like, no, but then like, I guess he stopped and was like, oh, and it's crazy because it speaks, it kind of, tell me what you that's nuts, right? And he's just like right there. He's like, all right, I'm done.
Right.
I don't want, because he doesn't want to cause controversy, right? And then you start thinking like, okay, well, you think about the room that he's in, the age of everybody that, and everything, and being able to process that. And, man, it's kind of a weird story though.
Yeah, it is a weird story. I say for him and not wanting to obviously be there and excuse himself, that takes a lot.
Yeah.
Something I had a conversation too with my kids when they were younger. My stepson in particular, he had friends over, and I overheard, I think actually my wife overheard them talking. No, I overheard them talking, and they were just dropping the N-word, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, he has white friends, black friends, Latino friends. And I said, Virgil, come here. What that word means and how it affects people, how it bothers people if it's been said out loud. Now, how does that affect you when your friends are saying that, your white friends? He's like, oh, I'm cool. I'm like, huh? Okay. I said, okay, understood. I'm like, but y'all at our house, so yeah, you're safe. It's a safe environment. What about when y'all out at the McDonald's just hanging right after a game, or hanging out, going to the mall? Do they talk like, are they well aware that they might say that loud enough for somebody that is not in that mindset like me, where I'm like, I'm gonna have a conversation with you, where they're not gonna have a conversation. Right. They're gonna come off the top. It's gonna get real fast. Yep. I'm like, so you gotta let your friends know they can't use that word for those reasons, because there's people out there that don't have that mindset like me. They're like, hey a minute, you just said that. No, let's sit down and talk, and let's go to the history of that.
You would be doing them a favor.
Exactly.
A favor, right?
Exactly.
Here's the thing I never understood about this whole conversation.
Yeah.
This is one of those deals to me where there doesn't need to be, you should never have to have a conversation. This is it's very cut and dry.
Yes.
Hey,
I get it.
If you're that word has been taken and is being used to communicate amongst Black people as a way to take, it's like an empowerment, taking away the sting of that word.
Correct.
That has been forever used to
control people.
Control people.
Yep.
White people, leave it alone.
Right.
Just
I'm giving a disclaimer here, okay?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But like, if it's in a song, don't sing that part of the song.
Just bleep.
Just hum along. Like, what it's like it's just such a very simple thing that I've never understood why this comes up.
Because some people don't get it. It's like, so I did my friend, my stepson and his friends a service.
Yes,
I said, hey, come out the room for a second. Let's all sit on the couch. Let's have a conversation. And we had that conversation. I said, this is how it's got to go. And this is what you have to understand, why you can't just freely say that. I'm a dad. I'm a parent. Even if I didn't know you, I would still sit y'all down, because I'm conscious enough. I'm not that, I'm not coming off the top rope. But you got some African American Black people out there that, to them, that's like a trigger. As soon as you say it, boom, they firing. I'm like, so I don't want you to be in that situation at the mall, at the movie theater. Y'all just having a conversation amongst yourselves, but somebody else hears that word being dropped. Don't get mad if somebody punch you in the back of the head or something. I'm like, so you just got to be careful where you at, and please just don't use it at all. I was like, just boom, just move that from your vocabulary. That makes it a lot easier.
You're absolutely right, man. I couldn't agree with you more. And I was just going to ask you this, because this came up because I told you that my tattoo appointment got canceled or never got booked or whatever.
Right.
But I was looking at these different tattoo ideas, and it's kind of a weird segue, but there are so many symbols, like Nordic symbols, European symbols, but that have been hijacked by like white supremacist groups that I was like typing in like Viking tattoos or meaning of like a wolf and blah, blah, and it was like I just randomly in Google was like 10 tattoos you cannot get. And I hit, I better find out, right?
Right.
And it was like, it's like if you get a tattoo of Odin or Thor, one of the two, that's like a white supremacist group in Finland. And if like you get a hammer, that's a white supremacist. And I was like, oh my God. Because like I would have been like, oh, cool, like Marvel.
Right. Unknowingly, right.
Dude, it was, and like there's 10 things, and probably 7 of them you go, I was like, oh, you literally had no idea. And then you start going like, well, the swastika with Hitler.
Of course, yeah, everybody knows that, correct.
No, but like the background of that, like he didn't like make that design. It came from somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what I mean. So yeah. Talking about like you fell asleep in the, let's say you fell asleep and didn't know all this stuff, and you get out of the chair and you go, hey, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, you wonder why somebody tailgating you right now. That's why you research your tattoos.
God.
I have what I've done my homework. I got some Japanese tattoos on my back. I think I had them, And before I did that, I went on a week. This is before internet got where it got, but it was like 2002, 2003 when I got it. And so I went as much as whatever was around then. I think Google was around then. And I'm searching pictures just like you did. And I was making sure I wasn't looking for making sure that, but I was making sure that it read, if it was Japanese, that it read this, that it read humble. And, that because they use the different lines to create a word or a phrase. So, yes.
But AG, think about how quickly that whatever's on your back right now, think about how quickly that could be hijacked by somebody else. And like in 5 years from now, you're at the beach. You're like, I ain't taking my shirt off. I'm out.
I'm gonna have to, exactly. Well, the good thing is I got a shirt, so no, unless I'm at the beach, which is very rarely being in Wisconsin. We don't have no beaches. Yeah, I know what you mean. It is crazy
world we live in, bro.
Very crazy world, Mike. Oh my God, that's a fantastic points there, man. So on that note, we're at the end of our show. So everybody, I hope you had a great time listening in. We kind of digressed from football, just went into a fun conversation there. That's what I'll say. But we'll be back next week to talk more Packer football. And then we got a game to talk about, see what these young Bucks are going to do. So we'll be able to break down the 49er Packer game from the preseason ball. But anyway, either way, me and Mike will be back. You can find me at Ahman Green 30 on Instagram and Twitter. Mike, let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure. Mike Wall 68, Twitter, Process to Perform, Instagram, AG. Pleasure as always, bud. See you next week.
I'll see you next week.